Welcome to Equal Footing, a podcast from Usawa Collective where we dive headfirst into the world of gender equality.
We're your hosts,
Madhuri
and Karen, friends and total gender nerds on a mission to uncover the amazing things happening in the space of gender equality around us. We'll be uncovering the challenges, why they exist, but more importantly, we'll be shining a spotlight on the innovators, the change makers, and the game changers who are creating, implementing, and championing solutions.
Think of it as a weekly dose of hope and inspiration, with a side of insightful conversations and maybe even a few laughs along the way.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Equal Footing, a podcast by Usawa Collective, where we spotlight bold ideas and passionate change makers who are leading in advancing gender equality across the global south.
So each episode, we talk about real stories and real changes that are happening in the world. Today, we want to talk about some of the core assumptions that drive these changes, which is we always think of women as victims of gender inequality. But what happens when women themselves are the gatekeepers that sustain some of these norms that drive inequality?
So, looking forward to this exciting conversation. And we're joined by someone who has seen this play out in the field in communities across Kenya. And I think we're quite excited to hear her stories, her lessons, her experiences. And I want to introduce her. So I'll just say welcome to the show, Terri. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. I'm so happy to be here. So my name is Terri Maindo. I can say JC, that is gender equality and social inclusion specialist, and very passionate about women and girls empowerment. Like that has been my life, just journeying with women, getting to understand the diverse nature of the different encounters that women go through in this world, and particularly just seeing how that cross-cut between different ages, that's from young girls, the youth, and women at large, and just looking at women in their diversity. When you talk about women, you just don't look at woman as a woman, but there's so many intersecting factors. So I'm so happy to be here with you, and I also look forward to this conversation.
Thanks, Terry. I mean, it's lovely to have you. Maybe just tell us, right? Like when you sort of started this journey, you mentioned that you obviously are also working with women across the different, age groups, the different sort of demographic factors and indicators. Maybe start us off with a story with, what happens when a woman finally finds her voice and finds her agency. And, what sort of powerful changes have you seen as a result of that?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because a woman getting a voice, I feel it's the power that we want, and we have gotten to a point of self-actualization. And it's very interesting because I want to share my story. For me, I believe I have the voice, I have the power, my agency has been built. Like coming from a patriarchal society whereby you have been cultured to look at things from a lower perspective. For you are a lower human being. And then now you come in a family whereby your parents decide and say that we are going to change this norm. Yeah. And by doing that, they decide to expose you to the hardship of the real situation that women are going through. And you have to go to a different cultural perspective for you to get your education so that you encounter it in your real life. So that has been my life. Yeah. I was raised in a Cosmo town, but my high school life was in a setup whereby girls are not valued. It was in a location whereby girls were struggling to get education. They were struggling to advance their careers. And for me, I thought it was a punishment being taken there. But later on, I understood from my father and my mother that they wanted me to see life from a different perspective and say, I'm a bit privileged from where I was born, but now this is the hard reality, and it shaped who I am today. I went to school to study English and literature, funny enough, to be a teacher. I practiced for some time, but after graduation, I said, no, this is not who I want to be, because I need to get the voice and advance and speak about this marginalized population, the people that have not gotten to where I am. So I'll say that a woman, when the agency is built, you become very powerful and you become a change agent, not only in your family, but in the wider community. And that is what has advanced me to get where I am. And every day I speak about women empowerment, building the agency of that woman, just not giving them space, but ensuring that they have the capacity to speak and articulate about the issues that they're going through and challenge those harmful practices that they encounter in their day-to-day life. So I'll tell you that a woman's agency is not just about her, but when you look at the different things they do, they're the first teachers at home. They're the first doctors at home before anything, yeah? So if they know the right thing, then they're going to prescribe the right thing, or they're going to take the right measures for the children, or all those things that are supposed to be handled firsthand, yeah? They're the first hand in everything. So when you build that agency, then you are transforming a society. And I'll also want to say this. My mom has a bigger role in my life. She came from a polygamous family, and being a girl, she didn't get the opportunity that I got. And one thing she did was, no matter what will happen, I'll ensure my girls have gone to school. I'll do all businesses, I'll do farming, I'll struggle, but I'll ensure that you people, you have gotten the education that you want, and I'll always have your back, no matter what. And I'll say that because of her not being able to get what she wanted in life, being a firstborn in a polygamous family drove the agenda. So I normally say she did it in an informal setup, I'll do it in a formal setup.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I totally agree with this point you've put up around women being the first teachers, being the first doctors. And I'm curious to hear now, reflecting on your own story, where clearly you've gotten to your own agency, right? You've come to even recognize that women are teachers, women are those first doctors at home. And then now you're working with other women who don't always see this power in themselves. So they're yet to find their agency and their voice. How are you helping them through this? How do you help them see their voice or see their agency? Maybe borrowing from your own story, from your mother's. I don't know. You tell us.
Yeah, so it's actually context specific. Each context differ. You cannot have like one shoe fit all. So it's all about analyzing the different dynamics that these women are going through, and understanding that, because you don't want also to expose them to more risks. Yeah, every day we say for a woman it's a struggle. They're ever fighting something. Even if they're not speaking, there's something they're juggling in between it. So you have to understand the specific context that they exist in. Yeah. And then what do they lack? Because I believe every woman has a particular power. Yeah. They have a particular strength in them. It's just that there's something that is pushing them down. So this is always important, that you do an analysis. Yeah. And that is why every work that I do or we do is informed by a gender analysis, to understand the context that they are existing in. What are the norms that are hindering them? What are the specific things that triggers maybe particular response of women that make them not to have the voice, even if they already have the agency? Yeah. And then guided by that, it's always important that we use our gender equality framework, whereby you now work on the gaps that the women have. And that's why we say we don't build their capacity, we strengthen their capacity. They already have the capacity. Yeah. So you strengthen their capacity in terms of now building their agency. But remember, they exist in a patriarchal society. So how do you change the relations? So that when this woman now has gotten her agency, she can voice it out. And say, this is what we need in a community. This is what we need in a family. So you change the relation in that she's accepted. Yeah. And then she's able to relate well with the different people that she encounters, and in this case, particularly the men. So we change the relation, and then we always work to transform the structures to ensure that the policies that are there are favorable, they're gender transformative, they're gender responsive, so that if we have all that holistically handled, then we'll see that the voice has come out. And then again, we just working with these women to believe in themselves. The society has made women to second guess about everything that they want to do. Am I doing right? Yeah. The right thing I normally want to say, like, I'm in Women and Voices and Leadership. You find, like, if you meet a man in the street and tell them, hey, we have this lot for you now to speak about your ambitions, they'll say, okay, yes. When? Now. Okay, which room? They'll step in. But when it comes to women, they'll be like, okay, I have not done my hair, my makeup is not on. What will people think about my top, and so on? So how do we make the women know that it's always the right time? That time is the right one. And then also the society not to backlash these women when they appear without makeup, when they appear with their hair the way it is, when they appear in that top, for them to look at what the woman is projecting out, but not about their appearance. Yeah.
I wanted to pick up one point which you said, like, obviously, we as women, or like women in general, exist in a patriarchal society, and there are different relations and norms that come with those relations that sort of impact how a woman finds her voice or exercises her agency. And I wanted to kind of pick a little bit more on who are these specific relations that really gatekeep or hold those norms. And, we often assume that, and I think this is maybe one thing we do want to keep clarifying, that when we talk about a patriarchal society, what we don't mean is that there is a man who is always gatekeeping a woman's, or like curbing a woman's voice or agency. Oftentimes it is other women, right? Maybe because they went through something similar, they never found their agency or voice. Maybe that's a way to maintain power relations. And I feel like, coming from like an Indian society, which is just as patriarchal, you will often find it's, usually the mother-in-law that is curbing the daughter-in-law's freedom, even though she herself went through those exact same problems like 20, 30 years ago. So could you talk a little bit about, if you've seen or come across, like, how are women themselves gatekeeping other women or upholding some of those patriarchal norms? And like, why does that happen?
Yeah. So the women have been socialized
Yeah.
to normalize that. Yeah. So you have been raised in a community whereby you've been put, this is your place. So you find that the older women, and even, it's intergenerational, they pass it over. So you will continue to normalize things until people feel it's normal. Yeah. So the women feel it's normal for things to be done the way they're being done. And then they pass it to their generation. Like, for example, just be told, as a girl, you're not supposed to speak like that. You see, as a girl, you're not supposed to sit like this. You're not supposed to be in this forum now. You sit like there. Why we are in a meeting? We are all participating, but when it comes to tea time, it's normalized that Terri, because she's a girl, she has to wake up and serve people tea. And all of us, we are in this meeting, maybe because of our qualification and so on. So the issue here is it's normalization. And then I always take it back and say that those many years ago, when women could not even speak, about all those movements, when we have the liberal women coming in, the radical women, feminists, and all those things, trying to find the voice, it was because things had been normalized. And then the worst part is making the women to do it themselves. Yeah, like to perpetuate these norms. The norms have been created, and the traditional norm holders will say that girls need to be circumcised. Yeah. But you see now, because I'm a man, I cannot circumcise a girl. So you go circumcise the girl. So you are also circumcised. Sorry, see, it's the local, whatever. You are also circumcised. So you see, you need to circumcise this girl. So the norm holders, traditional one, now dictate, and now they make it like, for us to be accepted, for the women to be accepted, now we have to do it before being reminded. So you find the grandmothers will come and start saying, you have come to age, you're supposed to get married, you have to be trained like this and so on, so that they also get the favors, yeah? You know that these councils whereby only maybe one elderly woman who is doing the right thing will be allowed to sit there. So for me, as an elderly person, to sit in that, I have to perpetuate without being reminded. Yeah, you know, the one that they're not stubborn.
Yeah.
So they do it without being reminded. And in that case, you see, they have already transferred it to them. So when you ask the men, will tell you, we are not the one doing it. It's fellow women.
Yeah.
But look at it. This thing has been passed down to them until they have normalized it, and they don't have a way to come out of it. And then also they want to be socially fit in that context. Yeah, you see, like that elderly woman who hangs out with the men in the community because they do the right thing. And then you see it comes with power. All this is about power. So if I've reached to that point, I'm very powerful in the community. People can come to me and talk to me to maybe pass the issues to the men. But how is it? And also maybe from the other side, it comes down to me, then I pass it to the people. So there's that power thing that you are holding. So you have that power over people. But when you look at it in real sense, when you trace back and you analyze, how did it happen to this point, you realize the problem where it started. Yeah. And then they're just trying to fit. Now it's like survival for the fittest. And I want to give you another example in terms of leadership. We say that we have so many women. If they decide to elect a female president, like in Kenya, they'll be able to do it. But we are not getting women leaders until we have the affirmative action for women rep. At least we have those slots for the women rep. Why is that not happening? First, there's the issue of women not believing in themselves. There's the issue that has been passed down and say that a man is a better leader than a woman. I don't want to compare, but all I normally say is that give each person an equal chance. Look at Terri with her academic, with her experience and so on. Do not look at Terri as a woman. She'll have to give birth sometime. She'll not come to work. She'll have to leave early and all those things. So you find that one is women, even ourselves, we have been made to believe that we cannot be good leaders because of all the other roles. Men are like these other genders, the only people who can be good leader. Number two, you find there's the issue of intergenerational gap and that struggles. So you find that the older women are still struggling for the space, that they're not opening up to the younger women. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a quick question follow up on that. So what you said about like power, I mean, that's eventually what sort of like patriarchy basically is, right? Like really skewed power dynamics. How do you then initiate change? Because you obviously have this, hypothetical elderly woman. It's not in her favor to give up power, and she will have to give up power if she thinks about, like instituting changes that have been a part of the norm. What are some of the mechanisms that are in place, or what's happening to institute that change? Because no one gives up power readily. It kind of needs to be taken away. Secondly, I think there's a concept, the backlash. There's a significant amount of backlash, right? You spoke about your story. It makes me also think that you were obviously quite privileged to have a family or parents that saw that, right? Like, and they wanted to raise you in a different way. And I mean, again, I don't know enough about your story, but I imagine you had the privilege of being able to fall back on your parents. You had parents who believed in you, cared for you. And for a lot of people, that is a significant privilege, but that may not be true for a lot of young women, right? So yeah, like what have you seen in terms of shifting those power dynamics? Like what actually works without like, it completely misfiring and like backlash?
Yeah, I was heading there on the issue of intergenerational
Yeah.
mentorship. You see, when you have discussion with them, they'll be like, there's people are not ready. Like you're not well prepared for this. We call it storm in quotes. Yeah, because
There's a storm.
yeah.
Okay.
So you're not prepared for
Okay.
that. When you ask, like, why are you not mental? Why are you not opening the space to young women? They'll say, like, they're not yet ready for the storm. They're not strong enough. Yeah. And we don't want things to be washed away. So now this aspect of intergenerational mentorship is very important. Hand holding younger people. Yeah, so that they're able to learn and see how they all are maneuvering within the streets and making it out. And then also just ensuring that there's a succession plan in place. Like the different organizations that I interact with on a day-to-day basis in my work is ensuring first we develop that goal together jointly. And these women who have come out, some of them started their own organizations, like there's the founder syndrome. So in that case, having a discussion and saying that you need to have a succession plan in place. And why is it important for us not to have a stop or a gap at some point and our gains to be washed away? So once they agree to the importance of that and knowing that there's an African says that say it's always important. A good dancer knows when to leave the stage. Yeah. Because you can never dance all the rest of your life. There's a time you need to leave the stage. So we prepare the women to know that, yes, you have been good, you have been dancing well, you have been doing well, but a time will come that you'll have to exit the stage because there are new dancers who are coming in. So if you have not trained these dancers, they're not going to dance well like you, and you'll keep on saying, see, they're not doing it well, and your gains will be washed away. So it's your role that you hold them, their hands, and just develop a succession plan and say that these are what I want to achieve in my tenure. But again, this is how somebody will succeed, and you start to mentor and ensure they come on board. So in most organizations that we work with, we ensure that they have that in place. Yeah. So that they mentor other young girls, knowing that at one point, these girls are the one who are coming either to lead this organization, or they'll create other organization or create other spaces where discussions of women and girls empowerment will take place. It's not necessarily to come and wipe them off. And then again, we are not saying that we don't need the old wisdom. We still need you people. We still need you to guide in the right way. So we do the intergenerational and the cross-generational mentorship, because it's also important, because you can be age mate, but there's some things I know that you don't know, or you know that I don't know. So how do we factor in the inter and the cross generational mentorship so that we find that women have been prepared to advance the discussion of women empowerment and just creating gender equality in general?
I have a question. I remember when we were talking before this podcast, you were sharing a story similar to the one you've given on the role of women being maybe the one doing the cut when it comes to FGM, or being the ones in communities telling girls, okay, you have to go cook because there's a party in the village or there's a traditional wedding. So you can't be going to school and it's your role to be cooking. And it's these older women. I'm still curious. I haven't found an answer since you last talked about this story. But how do you make these women, like the older ones, self-reflect and understand the role they have in perpetuating some of these norms and some of the gaps that will exist in the future, maybe of their younger ones? I know we've talked about some of the intergenerational, cross-generational mentorship, but more from a point of self introspection. How do you let them let go of power? Because when they let go of that power, what are they going back to anyway, right? It's not in their interest. In my head, it sounds like it's not in their interest. Have you managed to do that? Have you found ways of making them take accountability, introspect, see the role they play without shaming them? And yeah, how do you bridge that divide between then them letting go of what was making them feel powerful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, changing social norms and gender, it's not easy. It's something that takes years. Yeah. And backsliding is like this.
Yeah.
1 minute you're back to what you're used to doing. So we have a model that we call SA, social analysis and action. So this is informed by a gender power analysis. You see the powers that these women are holding, and then you have a reflection sessions with them for them to rethink. And see, even sometimes they feel they're very powerful, but they're being used. Yeah. There's that the hard reality that makes you rethink and say, oh, why am I even doing this? I'm the one being used even more than the people that I'm perpetuating to. So when you have those reflection sessions with them, they come to realization. They'll tell you like, I never used to know, like this is wrong. We have a group of women that we work with in Narok. These are women that have not gone to school. Yeah. But now from the reflection sessions and so on, they decide to be the change agents, because if we are not doing it, nobody will do it. Like no man will come and like do the cut and so on. So we are not doing it. It's not easy, I'll tell you. It's not easy. But every time we get even just one woman deciding and saying that I'm not going to do it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Then also, I told you about changing relations, working with men. It's always very important. So we work with them as allies. And in this case, because you see, the power comes from them. So if they say no to it, then definitely they're not going to do it, because socially, they'll not be acceptable. So it's a whole thing that you have to handle from all sides. And then now there's the policy issues. When push comes to shove, like what does the law say of the country? This is what it says. So you have to abide by the legal frameworks that are in the country. But it's not easy. I'll set for you another where I schooled in high school. I was in West Pokot County. Yeah. You know the dynamics that are there. But there's so many strong groups of women that have come up to fight FGM, to fight child marriage. And in this case, it was a moment of learning from the women who had reflected and said no. So for you to be a member of the women chairmans and so on, to join the team, you also have to say no and join us. Like you are secluded. And then you see, for them, they have so many cultures that bring women together and so on. So realize if you have a function in your home and you're the one still perpetuating, your fellow women will not come.
Interesting. So basically, normally how it would work is that if you don't follow this discriminatory social norm, you're sanctioned. But this is like almost the other way around, which is if you follow it, then you are sanctioned. So it's like almost then incentivizing women to kind of like move away from those norms. You speak about like sort of this entire process of reflection. I think like, could you actually speak to it a little more detail in terms of like, the example that you gave about like the Narrow County and the women that you were working with, and you said that they maybe didn't even go to school. Like, what is sort of the whole process of actually, even firstly starting off with like, did you go and approach the women and be like, oh, this is an issue, we should talk about it? Like, how did it come by? What's the whole process of reflection? When do you actually see the signs of, it seems like things are changing or something is changing? Like, what's the whole process? And actually, what's the whole process of getting a male ally? Yes, if you could just walk through like the details of what it actually looks like.
Okay. So, funny enough, the programs that I work with, we don't dictate anything. In every community, there are people who want some change in their community. So these are the people who need help. The need is from them. I want to speak a bit from the development side. Some of the mistakes that we have been doing in the past is going with a project to say that we have a project that will be funding this and this and this and this. And this still also goes back to the donors, who are funding. Now they come, we have this money for this particular program. The partners will go, we want these particular people to do this. But now, in the localization agenda, that is not the case. I'll answer your question. I just want to move towards that. That is not the case. It's actually ensuring that the local people work with, like, provide solutions of their own problems. So in this case, the local people have to come up with the problem. What is the problem? Then what is the solution? And how do we help you to solve your problem? Not like we are coming to solve. Not that we are telling you people FGM is an issue. Have you known it as an issue? Yes. What are the solutions? It's this and this and this. Like, give us alternative right of passage. Like, we need an alternative right of passage. Which one will work for you? This and this. Now, how do we support you? We have a capacity gap. So we come in as technical experts to support you to do best what you do. And those are the women groups that we work with, the women rights organization. We support them to do what they do best. And depending on the context, we advise on the different models that have worked, that have been tested, and they're proven to work. So when it comes to social analysis and action, this is a model whereby we'll do a gender power analysis. We identify the different categories depending on the project. What are the different dimensions? Actually, there are normally 5 and so on, like access to resources, gender division of labor, self-actualization, issues on GBV, and so on. So when we identify that, we are able to critique and see this norm has existed for long. Is it first ripe for change? Let me use that word. Ripe for change to mean that the community has already seen it as a problem. So that means they're talking about it. It's ripe for change.
So you are not the one coming and telling them, oh, this is a
It's time to
problem.
change it
They've
also.
already
No.
taken the first step of like, we know
Yeah.
this is a problem.
The media stations are talking about it. The leadership are talking about it. You see, like the issues, let me use like Disco Matanga. There's a time like it was being talked about, the government is talking about it, the local administration, the local radio stations, media, they're all talking about it. People are saying, no, this Disco Matanga, our girls are getting lost, they're getting pregnant, and so on. You realize that no, it's ripe for change.
Before we continue, for people who don't know what Disco Matanga is, please explain.
So Disco Matanga is, you see, when somebody has died, especially in the western parts of Kenya and Nyanza, there's that long, like 2-3 weeks where people are mourning. So every night they have all the machines, they put music. Then now, like I'll give an example, in Bunyala context, they call it Odiko. Yeah, Odiko. They bring in young girls. You know, these to teenage, the ones that now they've started to grow to, they're getting into the adolescence, and they're good dancers. So they bring them, they dance, and then people will be paying money. Let's say, for example, it's Karen, allow me to use you.
Please go ahead.
So this Karen gets to the stage, and then there's a man who will say, I'm giving 1,000, put for her this song for her to dance. So Karen will dance to that song. Another one will say, no, you didn't do her justice. I'm putting in 2,000 Kenyan shillings to dance to this song. But you know now, ultimately, the money goes to the family, the bereaved family. But now Karen will go with the highest bidder.
This is making me so uncomfortable on so many levels, but yes.
Sorry.
No. I'm like, whoa.
So these Disco Matangas will run for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, as they fundraise for that money. And then you see how many girls, and people will be putting in money and so on. Sometimes even you see mothers coming in to put in money so that their daughters can dance and be noticed.
And is this like normally, sorry, now I'm curious about this.
Okay.
And is this normally like sort of girls from maybe low income families who see this as a way to get income, or is there any other reason? Like when you say noticed, what do you mean?
No, it's actually, poverty is the biggest problem here. So the thing here is, it's attended by all the high and the mighty in this case. And then you find that, funny enough, even our leadership get involved in it. So they getting noticed now from the perspective of because the money is not being given to them. It goes to the bereaved family. So they're used as a fundraising tool. But now they'll get noticed by the men in the forum. And then some of them are very rich. A person who can bid 1,000, 2,000 in such context, they're seen like they have a lot of money. So now when they go with those girls, there's also something that we find maybe mothers cross their fingers, or the girls themselves, they get pregnant out of it. So from that, they're married off to those family, whether a second or third wife, it doesn't matter. Or even just having to say that we have a kid of a certain family. You see, like we have a kid of this particular family, our daughter has your kid, and so on. So you have that relationship that has been built, and then you are connected to that family. So the aftermath of all these things is what matters a lot. And then people will also keep on saying, you remember that girl was dancing well? So you have also attracted
Right.
The
people,
attention.
the attention, and then like the parents will be happy because our daughter has been noticed. She can go anytime, and so on. It doesn't matter whether you're in school or you're not in school, or so on, because also marriage is, the context whereby a woman raised, socialized, trained to be married, and then you're married off. So dowry is very important. So if you get married off, the family first is relieved the burden, because one mouth has left.
Less to feed.
Yes. And then now the dowry will come in. So they'll have earned something. And then if you've gotten yourself maybe somehow socially well-off family, then it's advantage again to the family, because they can release some burden of the other kids to come and live with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has this norm, I think we interrupted
So
you
yeah,
here.
sorry.
So has this, you're giving the example of how this komatanga came to be recognized as maybe time for changes. So your train of thought, I think we interrupted it there.
So once you get such a norm that is ripe for change, everybody's speaking about it. People have seen the negative impact. Remember now, if 10 girls go with one man, there's also HIV, there's sexual transmitted diseases, there's pregnancy, there's the family of that person, there's a whole thing that comes after that. So if people, first of all, people will feel like, actually it comes from a point of disappointment. Come to think of it, it's when I'm like, as a parent, not only my daughter went. You see, still now fight. So you are disappointed and you're like, no, this thing has to stop, from a point of disappointment. But us as practitioners in the field, we feel like now this is the opportunity.
So even though it started off as almost, if we start using the same power terms, like, oh, we could have had more power, but now we are sharing it with 10 other families. So, but whatever the reason, it's still like the right opportunity to like strike. Okay.
So you find that in that case, now people get disappointed. And then now that's the time you'll start to get your male champions. The allies will be like, no, we have to stop. Then you'll find those duty bearers who are now, the government banned it, but people are still practicing it. So you people help us to fight it. Then you find those mothers who have been disappointed, or that woman whose husband has impregnated 3 kids, 3 other young girls. You see now, they come in and they're like, now this girl, why are they coming in? They don't know how marriage is very hard. We need to speak up to them and tell them this is wrong. So they come in and they now become part and parcel of the program. Even some of them will approach you and say, like, we have this idea. We need funding. We need support. Yeah, how can you help us do a proposal for fighting this vice? Now this is right. And now when you come in with your model, they'll embrace. But that is a different context. When you go to places like Wajir County, that will not be the case, because the religion there's the religion part, and then there's the cultures. So in this case, how do you bring in like a person who can champion for you in those specific setup where women are not allowed to sit? Yeah. So it becomes very technical in that getting that one particular man, because in those council of elder, most of them are not open for women. And I want to remind you about, I think it was 2017 election. There's a woman who supported, she was elected. But now the leaders were saying that, when you elect a woman, disaster will come. Then now there was the dry. Remember the large period where there was no rain,
The drought.
the drought.
Yeah.
So they were telling people, now you see, we told you, you elected a woman. These are now the repercussions. We are not getting any rains. You see. So in that case, people were like, when she came into campaign in 2022, of course, even your own family campaigns against you and say that we don't want any calamity anymore. So in that case, you find that you have first to change the mindset of the people. And in this case, you as a woman, you cannot do it. You have to find a man who will speak, and bring this perspective. And this man has to be accepted in those, also there's the age factor. Not anybody is open to sit in those decision-making table. And then again, his agent, has it been built to speak about women issues? Because you can just looking for an opportunity for him to continue the same discussion. So that's when we work with such organizations that have decided, and using the structures that we have, the structures in the community, we're able to get an ally who sits in those councils and now to start to transform the minds of the elders within. So he's working with them and then also working with you. Yeah. There's no issue like our own. You have to use both angles. They work from within and also work with you to ensure that you continuously build his agency so that when he goes there, he's able to champion for women empowerment. And then now these leaders will ultimately come out because they are listened to by the community and say that, no, that drought was not as a result of her. It was because of this and this. They talk about climate change and so on, so that the woman is washed out of it. And then now other women who wants to vie, they'll now have a footage to do that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I have so many questions.
Yeah. Wait, before we go, out of curiosity, I want to close the loop on Disco Matanga. So did that norm eventually shift?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's somehow shifted. It's not completely wiped out.
Yeah.
But you see the way it's practiced, it has gone too fast. It's not an overnight thing. People will come in, just sit, have some music, not the way it was hyped, even advertised, tonight.
It's not now seen as a legitimized thing to do as such.
So what will happen, people will come to stay with you when you're bereaved and so on. There'll be no that dancing whereby girls are recruited during the day to come and entertain people. And then you find that there's the age limit whereby if it's only parents allowed and so on. And then it can go up to what time?
Okay.
And so on. So it's really control. And then if they find it, they have opened it to the kids. Now the legal, the duty bearers will come in and then dismantle everything and ban it and say, now this funeral, we're not going to have a disco, the night vigil because you are misusing it. So it has turned to be actually purely night vigil and so on. Okay. Those who do it, maybe they do it just underground, but once somebody report it, then action is taken.
I feel better now. Yeah. It was really
I feel like we need to bring Terri back to unpack so many of these things, even the engaging men and boys. But because we don't have time, I want to help us close the loop here. I've had a lot of things. Yeah, I've had the importance of self-reflection from the women who are being gatekeepers, and you've walked us through this very intentional process of not prescribing rather than going and knowing whether it's the right time. So timeliness, the importance of timeliness in changing norms and thinking about reflection, the importance of them co-owning that journey or co-creating even what solutions there is, and then the importance of course, leveraging community structures when you think of engaging men and boys, and also the importance of that. So my last question to you is, as you think of the development sector communities, other actors who are really working or scrapping their heads to figure out how do we continue, shifting some of these norms? How do we make sure that women also self-reflect and self-introspect on their role as it comes to addressing gender equality gaps? What would you say to them as like the first thing they need to think about, right? We've talked about so many. Where do they start? It can feel hopeless, I think, at times, but what will be that message for you, from you to them?
So I'll address it in two ways. One is where the money is coming in from, and then now the actions. So in terms of funders, they need to embrace trust-based funding. Because when you have embraced that, then you're not going to dictate.
Can you maybe quickly clarify for anyone who's listening, what is trust-based funding?
Trust-based funding is whereby I come in with a project and I tell you, we want to do this. This is our outcome. Funders, we might not have resources. We might not have structures that the traditional donor landscape look for, but we are changing. And we have seen this problem, we have been working on it. We just need a little push to achieve it. Yeah. And in that case, the trust-based funding is more built on transparent communication, like you need to communicate, and then you work on equity. And in this case you're giving us money. We're not saying that there's no accountability in it. There is accountability in it. But are you trusting me with your resources to create change where I am coming from or where I have seen this problem? So once you do that, you'll move out of the traditional funding which states that this is the objective of this money. We must achieve this. Yeah. As long as ultimately is pushing for gender equality. The ultimate goal is the most important thing. Whatever little thing that they're going to do with that money, as long as it contributes to the overall goal of gender equality, trust them with your money. Trust them. They'll account it and you will see change. But once you come and prescribe, these are the 5 objectives that you're going to work with. We want to reach these outcomes. Of course, we'll sit down and say, okay, let's write. Who is good at proposal writing? The donor wants this. We have to say this. And then you see maybe that is first not the niche maybe of that particular organization. They're just doing it because, donor fund also the space is shrinking. So we have to get there to compete for the little resources. But you see, when they identify the gap, and then you open, you say, our goal, ultimate goal is this. So people will come with a different, and in gender equality, there are a lot of things, and each contributes to the overall goal. So in that trust-based funding, and I think one of my colleagues wrote a very good, very brief article. You can read it. I can share a link later about trust-based and what needs to be done and so on. And then when it comes to the partners, the ones now let's say the actors, always ensure that you have an analysis. When you're designing your proposal, analyze the community that you want to work with. Remember, you're working with, not for. Yeah. If it's a youth program, bring the youth as part of it. Let them be part of the proposal, the design phase. It's very important. You do the analysis, co-create it with them, and tell them, this is what we are going to push for. If we get the resources, we are coming back to implement with you. I want to cite one of the programs that I really love, the Women Voices and Leadership Program. This program was designed by and with women in Kenya, all the 47 counties. Their opinion came in, and then it was designed. Phase 1 has ended, we're starting phase 2. But still, phase 2, we went back to them and told them, we have done this in phase 1. Phase 2, what do you want? And they're able to share their different perspective, their different context. And then overall, we did an analysis of the whole country, and we were able to say, Nairobi has this issue, Narok this, Kajiado this, Wajir this, and so on. And then the women themselves have said this. The male allies in those different contexts are saying this. Now we put it in the proposal, and then it goes. When we get the funding, we go back. Co-creation workshop. Now we have the money. We said we'll do this. Are we going to do it? Has there been changes? Yeah. What did we leave out? What are there? And then in that case, you see, there's the ownership. That's when we tell somebody you need to have a succession plan, they know why. Yeah. And then when we go back to the donor and tell the donor, we didn't anticipate the 2020, is it the 2027 election, the one that is coming, there's already some hits that have come in when we are doing. There's now the flexibility, and that's what we call feminist funding. So that the donor has given you the flexibility to change and adapt the new context that is coming in. Maybe there's the issue of femicide. How do we handle that in the program? So you find when you have had the donor giving you his money in trust, her money in trust, then you design the program. Nobody's going to fail. But you find that mostly where we lose it is whereby we design the program in the offices with what we know. Then now we go and tell people, we want to launch this program. Oh, now you look at the duty bearers in the community, the right holders. You say, this program is for the kids and so on. It's for the youth, where the youth in this community, a group is formed and so on. It is a point, the group dynamics and so on. They're like, after all, it was your thing. And then, now, and that's why you find that you can find an organization has been in an area, but there's no change. You keep on asking yourself, many years you have been here, what is the problem? You are ever in here, but there's nothing that is changing. That community is getting worse and worse. And I think I shared with you, sometime you do a program, year one, if it's for girl reintegration back to school, that they have delivered. Year one, you found that girl with one kid. It's a 5-year project. Year 3, they're expectant again. By the time you're closing the program, they have 3 kids. So did you cause more harm than any good? And you realize the people did not understand why they're in the project. They're not ready for the change. And you never drove that agenda of saying, we now need to, do you feel this change? And I'm not saying that we need to leave the people to speak. As I said, you do an analysis.
Yeah.
Because you are a specialist in this field, then have that discussion with the people. Already know the context that you're going in. Use your wisdom to drive the discussion, the agenda. And I'm telling you, if they're good people that you can work with very fast and get change, is women. Women are very flexible and they're very adaptive. And they're always I think it's from a point of struggling a lot and not used to getting things. So when you get an opportunity, you grab it without second guessing about it. Yeah, I think that is the point. So that's what I'll tell my fellow people in the field. Let's just not impose things. And let's go by the localization agenda.
Awesome.
Yeah, it will really tell you why let me not use this term because it's political, but the bottom-up thing. But in this context is the solutions are within the people down there. The solutions are not in boardrooms. They're down there. So go there, identify the problem with them, create the solution with them.
Thank you so much, Ari. This was very inspiring. And I think we always ask this to our guests as a parting note. What would you say to the women listening to this podcast, especially those women who don't consider themselves as leaders, who don't think they have agency or didn't imagine they could even have a voice? What would be the one sort of parting thought you would give to them?
For me, I'll tell women out there, we are very strong. The thing is to believe in yourself and to never give up. And always do this knowing that somebody did it for you. And you have to do it for somebody who will come after you. So once you're motivated by that, nothing is ever going to stop you. And as a woman, you are born a leader. As a woman, you have the voice. It's just that you need to step up and get in those rooms and speak your voice out. then I wanted to say Kiswahili kesi baadaye, then you'll be able to create a change. And no matter how little, because I know we will not even be doing this podcast if some women never struggle for us, if some women never created this space for us. We are doing this podcast because some woman somewhere decided to step up and say, I'm going to create a change. I'm going to give people a voice somewhere. I'm going to fight for education. And that's why we are here. So we also have to take the little opportunity, no matter, even if it's 1 minute, grab it, speak out and say, this is what we want. You never know the door that you're opening for another person. And this is like a movement. You do it today for me, like the way I say, my mother did it for me. I'm doing it for my daughter and for any other girl who will come after me. Yeah.
Awesome. I feel so inspired today. And as Terri is saying, my reflection is the power is within me. Someone did it for me. And so if I'm given that platform, that chance, taking it, I'm speaking. Even if I don't know what I'm saying, she said, kesi baadaye, which loosely translates to the case will be handled later. So we'll get the feedback later. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if it sparked a change in you, and if it left you inspired, share it with a friend and speak to us. We are Usawa Collective online. And see you on the next episode of The Equal Footing. Thank you. Thank you, Terri.
Thanks, Terri.
Thank you.